So yesterday, the Indianapolis Colts were able to take care of business and defeat the New York Jets to move to a 5-6 record. We've obviously talked about that. But beyond that, I think we need to talk about Anthony Richardson and how yesterday was so massive for his development. So let's get to it. All right, we are back. What is going on, Colts Nation? Welcome back to another episode of Bring the Juice. Your guy Cody here, and like I mentioned at the beginning of this video, guys, yesterday for the Colts was a good one. The Colts did defeat the Jets. They moved to 5-6 on the season with 6 games remaining for them in the 2024 regular season. But beyond the record, right? Obviously, the record still doesn't look great for the Indianapolis Colts. Beyond this record, I just think we need to talk about how important yesterday was for Anthony Richardson. So we're going to talk about that in just a moment. But before we do that, just want to remind you guys, this episode is presented by PrizePicks. Be sure to download the app today and use the code JUICE for $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. All right, guys. So when you're thinking about Anthony Richardson, obviously the biggest thing when Anthony Richardson was drafted back in 2023 was the big experience piece, right? We all talked about it, how the biggest thing for Anthony Richardson had to be him being on the field, him playing, him gaining that experience. And obviously AR season last year was cut off short by that injury, so didn't get to see him play a lot. While he certainly showed a lot of potential, we also knew he still had a long way to go, right? And so coming into this season, it wasn't a shock to myself and many others that AR definitely had his struggles this year. And, obviously he had a lot of struggles this year. He was one of the worst quarterbacks in the league in terms of completion percentage, although definitely didn't have help from certain supporting casts, such as the offensive line at times, the wide receivers, certainly the play calling, right? There was all these factors, but obviously the Colts felt like there were some other things for Anthony Richardson that he needed to work on in terms of some of the details and things like that. And of course, Shane Steichen kind of talked about that. So AR sat for 2 weeks. Joe Flacco came in. Colts tried to sell fans on the fact that Joe Flacco gave the Colts the best chance to win. That didn't work out. The Colts actually looked worse on offense. So after 2 games of sitting, AR got the nod again as the starter for this game. Shane obviously talking about how important it was and how good AR really was able to focus in on some of those details that maybe earlier on in the season, he maybe wasn't doing as good of a job as he needed to, kind of being that franchise guy, right? And here's the thing about Anthony Richardson that I think is so important when you're kind of thinking about it, right? We've seen the whole Anthony Richardson experience this year, right? Because he's actually been more available this year. You've obviously seen some of the low lows, right? We've seen the Green Bay game. We saw the Houston game. We've seen some of those things. We've also seen some of the high highs. We saw, obviously, the first Houston game when AR throws that effortless giant pass to Alec Pierce, right? You've seen a little bit of everything. Obviously, this season, I think the lows have definitely outweighed the highs so far for Anthony Richardson. There's been a lot of struggles, but again, this is a kid that barely got any playing time, in college. He played 1 full season. He barely played in high school. Definitely didn't have a pro-style system at Florida. So the Colts are having to basically develop pretty much all facets of his game when it came to throwing the football, right? Obviously we saw them trying to use him as a pocket passer a lot of times. We saw them trying to figure that out. Definitely some struggles there, with some touch, with some footwork, all that kind of stuff. Was kind of expected. And obviously there was a lot of people who were not happy about how AR looked. And so he sat for a couple weeks and he had an opportunity here in this game to show that he learned something sitting on the bench behind Joe Flacco. He learned something. He learned that he can't afford to slack off. Whatever it was that he wasn't doing, he cannot afford to do that again. And I think he kind of saw it in AR's demeanor before and after the game. He was locked in. He was really locked in this game. But going back, sorry, I got a little rabbit trail there, but going back to my main point, I think this was so valuable for AR because we've seen the low lows a lot this season, but this was the first time, I think, honestly, the first time where AR led a come-from-behind victory in the fourth quarter. He had an opportunity his rookie season in that Rams game But obviously that was a home game. The Colts didn't pull that out. But just the whole experience of coming from behind, leading your team down the stretch, and winning the game. And also in a road environment like New York, I don't care how bad the Jets are. I mean, that's a tough environment to win. It really is. I mean, all away games are tough, but especially in New York, that is very, very tough. So the fact that Anthony Richardson was able to do that, experience that, I think just does wonders for his confidence, knowing that, yes, there's been a lot of bad this year, but if he continues to work, continues to perfect his craft, he can show out like he did on Sunday against New York. And I want to kind of pull up some stats here from Anthony Richardson. You got to pull up his total stats for the game. Clearly his best performance as a pro. He went 20 of 30 for 272 yards, 1 passing touchdown, 2 rushing touchdowns, and 0 interceptions. Now, I will say that fumble, that's got to be better. He can't be doing that. But with all that being said, Anthony Richardson clearly looked the best he's looked this entire season. He clearly took that benching to heart. And I just kind of could see it on kind of how AR approached the game, how he was responding to certain things. It just felt like he was more locked in than he's been all season, right? Seemed like he was all business in a way. And, maybe it was just something where, when it comes to AR, we know he's such a happy-go-lucky guy a lot of times, but I think he kind of got woke up in some ways he maybe needed to get woken up, saying, you are the franchise, act like it. You are the guy that we believe can be our franchise quarterback. You need to act like it in those ways. There's a time and a place to be happy, to be joking, to do all that stuff. But there's also a time and a place where you need to lock in. And I think AR kind of, in the hard way of sitting on the bench, he realized, and I think he has committed in his mind to saying, I am never going to allow that to happen again. I am never going to get benched again. I'm going to do everything in my power to not let that happen again. I'm not going to miss the details. I'm not going to do some of the things that I was doing before. I'm going to raise the standard for myself in so many ways. Well, guys, with football season finally getting back into the swing of things, first off, we rejoice, but also, guys, when it comes to PrizePicks, this is going to be a great way for you guys, especially, to check out some of the stuff that PrizePicks has. You can now win up to 100 times your money on PrizePicks with as little as 4 correct picks. You heard me right. Only 4 correct picks. You can win 100 times your money, guys, on PrizePicks. Be sure to sign up today and get $50 off instantly when you play $5. You don't even need to win to receive the $50 bonus. It's guaranteed. So if you're looking specifically for the Colts stuff, that's definitely something you guys should check out. But if you're looking for, like me, more NFL stuff, there's all sorts of stats and stuff that you can check out and make your picks. And there's definitely guys that are very consistent, like Jonathan Taylor against the Houston Texans, that you really feel like you can probably feel pretty good about overall, right? And there's some other ones where you're like, I don't know if I would take the over on that. I don't know if I would pick them to hit that margin, right? So, guys, be sure to go check out all that stuff on PrizePicks. It's only a couple examples. There's all the different odds that you could hope for when it comes to that for PrizePicks. So I think you guys go check that out, but definitely excited for this season. And hopefully you guys will be following along with us and everything with PrizePicks and what they do. So be sure to download the app today. Use the code JUICE to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. Again, download the PrizePicks app today. Use the code JUICE to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. Like I said, guys, it's a great way to continue to stay in with week-to-week life of the NFL, specifically with your favorite team, the Indianapolis Colts. So be sure to do that. Be sure to check out PrizePicks. And remember, PrizePicks, run your game. So the fact that AR did that, I think, was valuable. I was not a proponent if you were going to sit him. I wasn't a proponent of sitting him the entire season. I was like, if you're going to, do that, do it for a couple weeks. And I'm glad the Colts came to their senses and just did it for 2 weeks. And it seems like so far, the message was loud and clear to Anthony Richardson. But it's so valuable for him because he hasn't had a ton of different experiences, right? He hasn't had a ton of those road environments where you're down and you have the opportunity in a 2-minute drill to lead your team down. And not only was Anthony Richardson really good on the day, I want to point out this fourth quarter for Anthony Richardson because it's absolutely phenomenal for him. In the fourth quarter versus the Jets, the Colts went on 2 scoring drives. And in that fourth quarter, Anthony Richardson went 8 for 10, 129 passing yards, a passing touchdown, and a rushing touchdown. I mean, when the Colts needed him, when the Colts were down 8 and it looked like they might be dead in the water, Anthony Richardson led them back to pull within 2. He led them back on that one. And not just that, then a little bit later when the Colts got the ball back on their last drive offensively, he went right down the field again. And he looked calm. He looked under control. I mean, the most calm and under control I think we've seen maybe ever for Anthony Richardson as a pro quarterback. He looked comfortable back there, right? And when the Colts gave him time, he was dealing. He was slicing and dicing this Jets defense, which, yes, I know the Jets are reeling, but their defense is not a joke. It is a top 10 unit. And it's interesting because the Colts had an opportunity, before AR was benched in that Houston game to potentially go down and lead a game-winning drive and win it. And the Colts failed to do it. They didn't even come close. It was embarrassing what happened at the end of that. He didn't even get off the Hail Mary. So it was another opportunity in a tight game for AR to show that he have it. Is he a guy that the Colts can think is the franchise moving forward? Because there were a ton of question marks. We already know AR's name has been dragged through the mud the past really 3 weeks at this point, if not longer than that. So this kid had a true opportunity here to not only show the fans, but to show the franchise that invested in him, that they made the correct choice. And obviously this is just one game. There's still 6 more games that AR has to prove it. No doubt. But I think just from a development standpoint, this game was massive for AR because he has failed a lot this season. A lot of failure. He started off so hot in his rookie season. He dealt with the injury. He came out, he looked pretty good in that week 1 game, and then he really struggled in the first half of the season. Got benched, was kind of at the lowest point, I think, probably in his NFL career. And then he comes out and has his best performance as a pro. He leads the Colts to a comeback, come from behind victory, his first ever at the NFL level. And I just think those sorts of things, the fact that Anthony Richardson saw and he proved that he can lead a franchise, he can command an offense, that is so massive for a kid who I was just curious, where is his confidence level after everything that's been happening this season? And it seems like his confidence level maybe is approaching a new high. Now, again, it was only 1 week. So AR cannot let up, and I am very curious to see, after everybody's praising your name this week, how does Anthony Richardson look against a very good Detroit team? How does he look? Does he continue the upward trajectory that he's towards right now? Or does he slink back into what we've seen this season? Right? Like I said, he looked the best he's ever looked. But how does he look the next week? I am so curious about that. But I just had to get on this episode, guys, get on the show here, because I've been thinking about this all day, how massive this game was for AR's development. Again, this kid has played in 11 games. He started in 11 games at the NFL level. He is 22 years old. He is learning all of these things. These are all first-time experiences for him in a lot of ways. So I just think going through everything, experiencing everything at this point in his young NFL career is going to serve him well moving forward. And seeing the things now he knows the standard a little bit more, I think that's huge for him as well because he knows, hey, this is what it means to be a professional quarterback. This is what it means when a franchise invests in me. This is what that means. This is what the standard is. And obviously, AR took that to heart, like I mentioned, and look at the result. Now, I'm hopeful that continues and he continues to develop as a pocket passer because he has not been good this year. Yesterday looked like a completely different quarterback. And obviously, Shane Steichen's got to, figure out some plays and some ways to get Anthony Richardson playing to his strengths. But again, Anthony Richardson, I think a couple weeks ago, he wouldn't have done what he did against the Jets passing the football. He wouldn't have. So that's the type of progression that you like to see if you're an Indianapolis Colts fan, and you're hoping that he can continue to progress moving forward because he still has a long way to go if he truly wants to reach his ceiling. Still a long way to go. And we knew it was going to take time with AR. We knew it was going to take time. And I truly believe that if he continues to work as hard as Shane Steichen and company have claimed he has, I think he's on an upward path to be a very good quarterback. But again, it all depends on him at this point. And obviously, Shane Steichen's got to do him some favors. The team's got to support him. But I just think yesterday was a super positive step in the development of your young quarterback, Anthony Richardson. And I'm curious your guys' thoughts when it comes to this as well. Like I said, guys, I've been thinking about this pretty much all day, pretty much since yesterday ended, the game yesterday. I've been thinking about this because you talk all the time about experience and getting these different moments, and certainly failure is a great teacher, but also having some success and knowing that you can do it and knowing that you're capable of doing it, I think is also very valuable for Anthony Richardson. So, guys, I'm curious your thoughts here on Anthony Richardson, on the game he played against the Jets, and what do you expect for him moving forward? What are you hoping that he's going to do? Do you believe he can be the guy moving forward for the Indianapolis Colts? Let me know all those things in the comments down below. But guys, that'll do it for this one. Thank you so much for tuning in. Be sure to smash that like button, hit subscribe, turn on the notification bell. Also, be sure to go check out our Reacts channel. We have some pretty good reactions from yesterday's game, and right now we're at like 1,300 subs. So we'd love for you to check that out if you haven't already. We try to react to just different stuff throughout the course of the week and obviously on game day as well. So if you guys would help us out in that department, that would be greatly appreciated. And also, we're trying to make the push to 20,000 subscribers. So if you would help us there, we would greatly appreciate that as well. But guys, that will do it for this one. Thank you so much for tuning in. And as always, guys, go Colts.